Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Sorry for a different setup. We're going to be trying something different. I'm actually back home in Chicago today, and um, I haven't made a blog in a long time, or a vlog, or whatever you want to call it, an update. So I'm trying this out. So if it does get a little bit choppy and whatnot, um, just remember that the live stream is um, I'm trying to essentially test this out. So I've got a different microphone. I'm trying to use my DSLR with this MacBook that I got that I travel with. But I had a few things on my mind, and I kind of want to let it out. So if anybody is tuning in, I know this is like last minute and not a lot of people knew about this, or actually nobody knew about it. I just decided to pop it open. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I had some time, and I thought, you know what, let's just try to get everything set up. So a couple of things. The problem with Muslims today. Why did I title it that? Well, in light of a lot of things that are happening in the world in general, and on Twitter and YouTube, and all the banter that goes back and forth, uh, I wanted to make this video, especially in terms of being from someone who makes content and is part of a podcast. I wanted to make a video about giving people a platform, and um, some of the negativity that comes along with that. So let me give you, for example, like on the Mad Mamluks, where I co-host, aside from this channel, we have a variety of guests, and it can be anybody or anybody. We've had people all the way on the left, people all the way on the right. We've had people in the middle, people that have a wide degree of opinions on Islam and other things. And we bring them on so that we can engage them and we can present at least what their arguments are and hear them out. Now, does that mean that we're somehow giving them a platform and encouraging what they believe in? I don't think that necessarily means that. I think one of the biggest problems today for Muslims is that they are reluctant to hear the other side. And for me, that is very problematic, because if you effectively want to, uh, you know, create a rebuttal or a counter narrative to an opinion or a video or whatever it may be that you do not like and that you feel is incorrect, then you first have to understand what the opposition is saying before you actually create that content that's going to uh, be a rebuttal for you. Now, I think a lot of Muslims feel like, well, why are you giving them a platform? Why are you speaking to them? Don't even give them time of day, and cut them off, or be combative, and while that may work for some people, I think a lot of times we take pride in being able to hear an argument and logically create a rebuttal rather than just having the typical emotional response. And I think that's important in today's time, because people need to understand that when you make a response or when you react to something in the name of Islam, and when you are speaking on behalf on the name of Islam, the effect of that is more than just around yourself, meaning that you are going to impact how people view Islam. You're going to impact how other Muslims also view you and how they view the argument. and so forth. So basically, you're putting something out there on the internet that is going to be accessible by everybody, and it's never going to come down. Once you put something on the internet, khalas, yani, it's going to be on there till the end of time. You cannot hide anything once you put it on the internet. So with that being said, we have to be very careful on how we present our argument and how we actually even come off, right? We're trying to be an ummah that is rational and that is creating effective material that is being put out there in order to explain Islam or to counter some anti-Islamic narratives, right? Let me give you an example. For the magazine that came out in France, Charlie Hebdo, right? No doubt what that magazine or publication was doing was absolutely horrendous and wrong. To draw a picture of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to make a mockery of that in order to trigger and to anger the Muslims was intentional for sure. But the response that was given to it, did it really provide a just response, or did it provide any type of effective response? And for me, the initial response, meaning the violence that took place, didn't really provide an effective response. As a matter of fact, I personally believe that it probably harmed them or the Muslims more than benefited them. A magazine like Charlie Hebdo was about to go bankrupt, right? I mean, it wasn't even really going to be around any much longer. They were filing for bankruptcy. They were running out of funding. And all of a sudden, all the Muslims worldwide gave it so much attention. And then those individuals went out and did what they thought was right and brought so much attention to the magazine and sympathy for the magazine, right? That it kind of was a revival for them. It's almost like the Muslims just kind of played into their hands. You know, it's almost like they orchestrated it. Like, hey, you know what? We're going to create something so drastic, so outlandish that Muslims are going to be forced to respond uncontrollably, and we're going to get all of this attention and regroup and get funding again. Do I think that they thought somebody would have died, or not really? But I do think that they thought it was definitely going to provoke a worldwide response and outrage. And because of that, now Charlie Hebdo is now back in business and they're thriving. Apparently, I don't know about the latest numbers, but at least at that time they were doing much better than they were 6 months prior. Now, for me, when I look at that response was not something that was logical, and it did more harm than good. So how do we go? What would have been the appropriate response? Well, in my opinion, ignoring Charlie Hebdo in the first place would have been the much better response, right? Not even giving them time of day, and then creating content that would have challenged any anti-Islamic narrative. Why we feel that drawing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is wrong, or explaining these things and giving a rational and logical argument behind it, not just saying, well, if you draw the picture, this is an insult to us, and some people will go emotional. No, we can give thought out responses that they may not even agree with, but at least there is some logic behind it, and therefore they have to concede and say, well, we can at least empathize or understand from their perspective why doing something like this is counterproductive. Because I believe at the core, some people believe that this is an issue of freedom of speech and things like that, right? By insulting Islam. And the fact that Islam, quote, wants to censor free speech in order to protect itself and things like that, they think of it more of a free speech issue. But if you can kind of empathize with them on why this is offensive to us, to the rational people, you're more likely to build a bridge and a dialogue with them. And I like those dialogues. I think we should have those dialogues. Why? Because those dialogues are not necessarily going to convert people or even make them say, oh, Islam is great. But it helps them understand our positions. And when someone has understanding, they're less likely to become Islamophobic, and they're less likely to make blanket statements. They're less likely to make offensive content and comments. They're more likely to be at least say, well, wait a minute. They all don't believe that, or they all don't feel that way, or they're all not going to react that way, or wait a minute, we see their point of view, right? And so I know Charlie Hebdo happened a while ago, but I like to use that example because it's very good in terms of highlighting how your reaction can cause a more harmful effect. Likewise, there's a guy in California or somewhere who was making a video about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and another guy that wanted to burn the Quran. Like, these are guys that are nobodies, right? And we give them so much attention. And I think that energy would be better invested in creating content rather than organizing protests and doing this and doing that. It's not really going to do anything. Use the mind that God gave you. And I think one of the important things that we've lost as an ummah is the ability to critically think. Critical thinking is essential. The Quran even encourages us to critically think about things. We can see the examples of, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, where he's contemplating what is God and what could be God and what can't be God, right? This is a deep discussion that he had within himself. And those kinds of conversations need to happen if you're going to be honest and truthful with yourself. And even in the argument, right? So it makes sense to do that. Now, am I saying that, this is everybody's responsibility? Absolutely not. I don't think it is. I think that there are people who can and who can't. I mean, people who are talented in this regard and some who are not as talented in this regard. But I'm talking specifically to people who are content. So that's for that. Now, the other issue is the general social media users, right? Like, the problem is that on social media, people tend to act like totally crazy. Like, they just feel like that whatever happens on the internet, they're not accountable for. It is as if they believe that, right? Or they can just type the craziest things, say the craziest things, tweet out the nuttiest things, and they think it's not going to come back to bite them or harm them. And my thing is that, like, let me talk specifically about Twitter, because Twitter is a very interesting place. You can tweet out things for various reasons, for dissemination of your opinions or news, or even to create clout, right? To just generate more traffic for yourself. Now, the problem is that people will take 140, I think now it's 240 characters, and now totally define somebody, right? And then on top of that, they are trying to invite others to now partake in conversations about other people, almost inviting people to namima and ghiba. Now, if you are talking about, somebody will say, well, you know what? Oh, these are Islamic opinions, and you have to expose them and make a refutation of them. Well, that is true, but are you qualified to do that? Are you qualified on as a scholar or someone, to do that? I'm not. And I found that people always want to involve other people in this and create this cancel culture. Well, do you agree? Do you not agree? Is it 100% black and white? You have to say yes or no. And I don't think that's how human beings operate. That's a very binary way of looking at life and human beings. Our interactions are not that way. I can completely disagree with my brother on something, but agree with other things. And does that mean that I'm going to completely cancel him out because I disagree with him? No, we just don't agree with it in that moment in time. So again, the idea that we have to cancel everybody because we don't agree, everyone we don't agree with, is nonsense to me. Shutting out the opposition and creating campaigns and exposing and doxing and all that, this is the way of non-Muslims who are, I mean, I don't want to say non-Muslims, but a very Western liberal thing where either you're with us or against us. And in Islam, we look at it in a very different way. We look at it like, hey, look, we can have differences of opinion, but at the end of the day, we are one single body. At the end of the day, you are my brother or my sister, and we have a common bond, which is Islam. And we believe in La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, right? And everything else is trivial compared to that. But the ideas of some of the modern ideas today is that, oh, this is something so fundamental. If you disagree, we have to cancel you out. You can't be neutral. You can't be against it, or whatever it may be. And that's not the way that we should be looking or operating, right? I think that we've got to stop that. People on Twitter and YouTube and comment and this and that have to be more responsible and consider what they're doing. Consider the impacts of, or the impact of creating that culture. Because now, what if one scholar says something you don't like, or one person says something you don't like? Are you going to erase decades of content or material? I don't know if that's necessarily a wise thing to do, because not everything is wrong, right? Not everything is bad. Likewise, there have been some scholars in Islam that have bad opinions about certain things. Does that mean that we cancel them out completely? I don't believe we do that. You can say, well, wait a minute, some of his stuff is a bit questionable, and we've done that before, but to completely cancel out everything they've done is not, I mean, in my opinion, I don't believe it's the right way to do it. But that is just my opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, all of you are free to do what you guys want to do. You can type, you can comment, you can create content, do whatever you want to do. But I just ask you that, to think about the repercussions of that, to think about what is your objective? What is your intention? What are you trying to do? And are you going to be happy with this content you're putting out there 10 years from now? When you look back at your Twitter feed 10 years from now, are you going to say, oh, I did the right thing? Or are you going to come back and say, wow, I was very immature, or I was a completely different person, and I can't believe I said that? And that's happened to me. I have put out content pretty much my adult life. I've had YouTube channels before. I've canceled them. I've shut them down. I've had Twitter feed. I've had different various social media accounts. And I look at them and I'm thinking, even nicknames I've had or usernames. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, like I can't believe I did that. And that's perfectly normal. That's part of growing up. And part of maturing as a human being and living life. But the thing is that with that in mind, and the difference that today with the internet is that everything stays. You don't want to regret something you put up 10 years ago because you just didn't take 10 minutes to think about the fact that, this is going to be on the internet forever. Right? Or you don't want to be on the day of judgment answering to God why you encourage someone to backbite another person, right? Meaning that tagging people, and even that person doesn't know, and you just, what about this and what about that, and just basically involving people into issues that are not that no one's going to solve. It's just about fighting. It's trivial, like it's a difference of opinion, or it's not even related to religion. It's more so about the opinions and political positions and all of these things, right? Are you prepared to answer for that? And I think majority of us are not going to be, right? We're not going to have an answer. And I'm not saying don't be involved in social media, don't call out things that you feel are wrong, and of course, but be mindful of the information you're putting out there. Otherwise, it can come back to haunt you in this life or in the next. So, something to think about. But other than that, as a side note, I'm gonna wrap the video down here, but we're putting out new content. I'm in Chicago. We were able to get in the studio. Alhamdulillah, we just did a show with Edward Dutton and Robert Dufour of Canada. We did a roundtable recently. I think we're gonna be putting out another episode sometime soon, maybe this week sometime. And I'm hoping to pump out some stuff for the Mad Mamluks live in the studio, which would be fun. But I'm going to be putting out some more stuff here as well too. I'm going to be talking about different things. Unfortunately, I don't have like the dual screen. I'm just using my MacBook and blah, blah, blah. So I don't have the ability to really do too much in terms of screen sharing and like reactions, but I will definitely be making a commentary about certain things like the current political climate, what's happening in Libya with Turkey and Egypt moving in, the coronavirus stuff, Black Lives Matter, things like that. Even we had my follow-up discussions about race and IQ. These things that I think are cool topics. I think they're important. But if you have any comments that you want to make or any topics that you want to suggest, leave them down below in the comments. And I'll be sure to try to address them if I can. Anyways, like always, go ahead and subscribe if you're new here. If you've never been here before, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell so that way you'll know that you'll be made aware of when I make new content. You can always find me on Twitter, twitter.com/MortTMM. And there's a Facebook page too at MortTMM as well. So look that up. Join the fan group if you want to. And yeah, as usual, stay safe. Keep your social distancing and everything. Corona is not fake. It's not fake news. It's real. Take your precautions and make sure that you guys stay safe out there and tune in and give us your feedback, on this channel about my videos or about the Mad Mamluks. I want to hear feedback. I definitely think it's important for us to hear that criticism or even comments that are supportive because it helps us determine what content to continue to make and what is appealing and what is relevant to you as a listener. So with that being said, I'm glad that you were able to watch this video. I know for anyone that was watching live, it's not really, it wasn't advertised. I just kind of put it on. I had some time. I figured better do it now than never and just get it out. So I apologize for that, but I will try to give an advance notice when I do go live. But in any case, I will see you on the next video, and hopefully that will be soon. But if not, we'll definitely be in the Mad Mamluks channel. So tune in there. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Mad Mamluks channel as well too, and donate to the Patreon, small amount to the Mad Mamluks on Patreon.com. You can just go to www.themadmamluks.com and look at the Patreon or Patreon.com/themadmamluks, and you can go ahead and subscribe there for a small amount. We're not asking for a lot of money, but just stuff to help Sim and the studio. I don't get any of that money. We don't do it for money. We're a 501c. We don't take any profits or salaries. We all have jobs. We work. We pay for everything out of our pocket. So with that being in mind. But anyways, it was a pleasure. And I will be seeing you guys next time. So until next time, let's talk about it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.